From triggering a horrifying crash to not even being trusted by his teammates to test their car, this man's story is rarely told, but it's a complete disaster. To enter Formula 1, the pinnacle of motorsport, one must demonstrate their capabilities, earning something called a super license as certification. Over time, more than 400 drivers have secured this necessary ticket to Formula 1. While not every driver achieved legendary status, they at least showed the potential to do so. However, there was one instance involving the only driver in F1 history to have his super license revoked: Yuji Ide. Before 2006, Yuji Ide was not a well-known name in motorsport. At the age of 31, Ide found himself unexpectedly thrust into the top tiers of motorsport, thanks to the newly formed Japanese team Super Juri. Led by ex-driver Ajuri Suzuki and backed by Honda. The team's intention was to showcase what Japanese drivers were capable of on the world stage. Takuma Sato, who had a couple of podiums in his past, was given the first seat. And when it came time to fill the second seat, Ide was chosen to represent Japan's capabilities in Formula 1. Ide's racing history was not as impressive compared to his fellow racers. Starting at Japanese karting, Ide achieved regional and national victories before entering the Japanese F3 scene in 2000. In his debut full season, he secured second place with 2 wins, but slipped to 5th the following year without a win. Ide then tested his skills in Europe's French F3, where he finished a respectable 7th in a predominantly French field. Between 2000 and 2002, he also competed in prestigious events like the Pau Grand Prix, the Masters of F3, and races in Macau. By this point, Ide had spent 6 years in F3, a considerable amount of time at that level. F1 drivers typically ascend the ranks much quicker. His results were, at best, average. Despite winning 1 race, he finished 7th in the championship. For perspective, his teammate Renaud Delort, a name so vague that a simple Google search barely yielded results, outscored him by 100 points and secured second place in the standings. In 2004, Ide shifted to Formula Nippon, securing 1 victory and finishing 3rd overall. Following years saw 2 wins in Ide's name, but he ultimately fell short of Satoshi Motoyama. Despite what can be called success in Formula Nippon, Ide faced a steep learning curve when he transitioned to Formula 1 with the invitation of the newly formed Super Juri team in 2006. Super Juri, while eager to showcase Japan's talent in F1, was actually based in the UK and operated with a predominantly European staff. Ide, who spoke only Japanese, struggled with communication and providing valuable feedbacks to the engineers. This challenge was compounded by the team's own difficulties. Super Juri was grappling with the typical hurdles of a new team, including getting their car ready for the season. Ide's preparation for his Grand Prix debut in Bahrain was limited to just 27 minutes of testing in Barcelona, the team prioritizing Takuma Sato, proficient in English, as their main driver. Sato took the lead in car setup and issue resolution, leaving Ide in a secondary role before his first race. Super Juri's debut was underwhelming. Their car was the slowest on the grid, and Sato posting a time of 1:37.2.8 seconds and Ide trailing at 1 minute 41 seconds .427. Ide's driving further raised concerns. He was criticized for failing to check his mirrors and for his unpredictable racing lines, as seen in his Bahrain practice footage. Despite not being the last on the grid, thanks to Renaud Delort's mishap, Ide's race performance was poor, with leaders lapping him by lap 11. Adding fuel to the fire, Ide's first pit stop turned into a mess. Struggling to engage the car in neutral, the mechanic had to step in to help Ide. The race came to a frustrating end on lap 35 when the engine failed, bringing a series of misfortunes to an end. As he moved on to Malaysia, Ide's poor performance followed him. He found himself at the back of the field in every session, and by the time they got to Melbourne, things started to heat up. During the first qualifying session, Ide was unaware of Rubens Barrichello closing in behind him, inadvertently impeding the Brazilian's lap. Though Barrichello managed to avoid a disaster, the incident didn't help Ide's reputation. This mishap not only tarnished Ide's standing with the sport's bigwigs, but also displeased his employers. To make matters worse, Ide's qualifying time was a staggering 3.3 seconds slower than Sato's, prompting doubts about his ability to race competitively. Adding to his woes, the team decided to give Ide no running at all during the test for the fourth race at Imola. Instead, they once again favored Sato for the test sessions, perhaps anticipating more struggles for Ide. At Imola, Ide was once again at the bottom of the grid, over a second and a half behind Sato in the same car. Frustration was mounting as Ide continued to lag behind every time the season rolled on. Pressure was mounting. That's when Ide saw an opportunity. In a moment of desperation, Ide made a decisive move on the first lap. Determined to escape the back of the field, he attempted an aggressive dive down the inside of Christian Alber's Midland car, leading to a chaotic scene. The result was a brutal collision with Alber's Midland, launching the Dutchman into a terrifying series of barrel rolls that ended with his car upside down. The crowd fell silent, fearing the worst, especially at Imola, a track haunted by tragic memories. Pit crews and teams watched in intense anticipation, but fortunately, Albers emerged unscathed. A collective sigh of relief. Despite surviving the incident, Ide's race would end on lap 22 when his suspension failed, leaving him once again at the back of the field. The FIA had seen enough. Ide's lack of pace and the string of dangerous incidents, including those involving Barrichello and Albers, were too much to ignore. In an unprecedented move, the governing body revoked his super license, deeming him a danger to other drivers. This was a severe decision, one that had never before been taken in F1 history. Though other drivers may have caused more significant damage throughout the history of Formula 1, Ide was the one to bear the brunt of this harsh action, a shadow that would follow him throughout his life. This decision shattered Ide, who had already announced his preparation for the next race at the Nürburgring by viewing old race videos. After just 4 races, financial constraints and the loss of his super license effectively ended his F1 career. He returned to Formula Nippon. The success he'd enjoyed in 2004 and 2005 slipped from him. Over the next 4 seasons, Ide managed just 9 points, best finish of 13th at the championship. In 2008, Frank Montagny took over at Super Aguri, and the team seemed to realize that fielding 2 Japanese drivers only worked if both were competitive. It's easy to dismiss Yuji Ide's F1 stint as a punchline. His story is more than just fodder for sensationalism. After his F1 expulsion, Ide returned to Japan, though he never regained his previous form. In 2007, he joined the Autobacks racing team Aguri, owned by Aguri Suzuki. There, he managed a 3rd place finish in Round 5 at Suzuka, offering a glimpse of his earlier performances. Ide transitioned to full-time racing in Super GT for Team Kunimitsu in 2008 and 2009, with victories at the 2010 Pocket GT Summer Special and the 2nd place finish in the 2008 event, standing out on his GT racing resume. However, his Formula Nippon efforts in 2008 and 2010 yielded little success, scoring only sporadically. The reasons for his decline remain unclear. Perhaps the brutal F1 experience had drained his spirit. While Yuji Ide may have not reached the heights of his peers, his persistence deserves recognition. He continued to race despite the overwhelming odds. Over 16 years later, he remains the only driver in F1 history to have his super license revoked. In the records of F1 history, Ide's story serves as a stark reminder of the unforgiving nature of motorsport, where even the dream of a super license can be snatched away as quickly as it's earned. But challenges are meant to be overcome, and if you're interested in someone who overcame an obstacle as formidable as death itself, this video is for you.